Hello, Braves fans. Welcome to another episode of the 9521 Atlanta Baseball Podcast. Jason here with my buddy Michael as we are here for another episode on Monday night, and the Braves are playing as we speak. It has not gotten off to a rousing start, unfortunately. Michael, how you doing this week, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. I wish I could get the green screen to work, but other than that, I'm great.
Well, it's working fine on this end. It's green. So
yeah,
is that what you want a green screen to do? So yeah, good to have you back, man. Good to be back for another week as we continue our strong run of I think missing only one episode this season, maybe two. But unfortunately, as we record this and as we're live on X, Martin Perez had a very rough start tonight in Minnesota as the Twins scored 4 runs before he recorded an out. And so 4-0 Minnesota in the top of the second, and we'll get to that. So, Michael, the week that was, the Braves took 2 of 3 from the Mets, which was good because the Mets have kind of been a thorn in the Braves' side this season overall, as Michael pops a beer. And then a weekend series dropping 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks, who are very much in the postseason race right now as they try to secure a wild card and maybe even do Braves fans a favor and knock out the Phillies from that wild card spot. So as we speak, actually the Phillies are now tied for the second wild card spot with the Padres, with the Diamondbacks 1 game behind both of those teams in the wild card standings. So, we've kind of stopped going through every game individually, Michael, and I think that's probably the best thing to do. But just your overall impressions of the week that was, 2 out of 3 from the Mets, which included a really good start for Martin Perez. So you want to be fair here and balance out, what has not been a good start tonight as we record this. But he had a very good start against the Mets, 6 innings. I think he only gave up actually shutout ball, I think, and struck out maybe 2 or 3 and walked a couple. So, we'll get into our thoughts about starting pitching, but just kind of your general impressions of the week, dropping 2 or 3 from the Diamondbacks over the weekend. What did you think, Mike?
I was disappointed that we couldn't take more than just 1 game from the Diamondbacks, and of course, it was the 1 game I didn't get to watch. Of course, it had to happen that way.
Of course.
But I mean, taking 2 and 3 from the Mets, that wasn't that bad either. I can't really complain too much.
Yeah, the Mets have, they won the season series from Atlanta, which is, that's baseball. That's not really, I just don't. I don't put a ton of stock in regular season series, and we've seen crazy things like a couple years ago. I mean, you've talked about this before. The Angels swept the Dodgers like 6-0, and then of course the Dodgers won the World Series, and the Angels weren't even sniffing the playoffs at that point. This year, I think the Brewers are maybe 5-1 or 4-2 against the Dodgers, or maybe last year they were, and then the Dodgers beat them in the playoffs. So I don't put a ton of stock in regular season results. So things like that are going to happen. I think it's the first time the Mets have won a series from Atlanta since like 2017. So kind of an outlier, but some things are going on with this team, and I'm going to be very careful here. Not to be too negative, because I take a beating on X from a certain part of our fan base for that. Although it's funny to me, because if you listen to some of our comrade Braves podcasts, they're you're kind of negative too when the team doesn't perform well. Here are my concerns, Mike, and some of these came out this week. First of all, the Braves became, I believe, I pulled this number and then I forgot I was going to make a graphic for it. I think the Braves were only the fourth or fifth team this year to have a 3-game stretch where offensively they only walked one time over 3 games. Now, we've talked about this before, but one walk in 3 games, and the problem that creates is now you got to rely on stringing hits together, and then also guy comes up and hits a home run, there's probably not anybody on base. So instead of having a 2 or 3 run homer, you got a solo homer. And it's costing the Braves some runs, and it's also allowing the opposing pitcher to get very deep into games with a low pitch count. I've noticed this, especially seems to happen to Chris Sale, where whatever team he's facing seems to really work the count and drive his pitch count up. So by the 6th inning, Sale's kind of running on fumes. And then you look at the opposing pitcher's pitch count, and he's 20 to 25, 30 pitches less and still going strong. So have you noticed this, Mike? And I don't know that you can change this at this point in the season. Is that a concern for you?
It is a bit of a concern. I don't like that we're not working the count and we're not pushing opposing pitchers' pitch counts up. Like, I'll use it. It wasn't specifically the walks or whatever, but like, for example, the game against Arizona, Perdomo kept fouling pitches off. I want to say it was like 10 pitches in the first inning, off on Sale. And then Corbin Carroll hits a shot that Doobie should have caught and misplayed.
Terrible play.
And correct. Fortunately, it was second and third with no outs. Fortunately, only gave up 1 run.
Yeah.
But the fact that Perdomo battled and then Carroll gets that, and it just that all that right there is going to drive up Chris Sale's pitch count. So we're also not helping ourselves. We're not helping out. We're not screwing up their pitcher's pitch count. We're also not helping our own and kind of basically driving our pitch count up too by not completing plays that we should have made.
Yeah, just poor at bats, and a lot of times they seem to come in key situations. Runners in scoring position. Look, and we'll get to it more specifically, but thankfully, our MVP Matt Olson came through yesterday. Where we would have had a shot at getting swept by the Diamondbacks. He comes through with a big 3-run homer right after. We had a man on third, less than 2 outs. Acuna comes up and strikes out. Can't get the guy home. Now, again, I want to be fair. Acuna earlier in the game had a big RBI double. Okay, so with a runner in scoring position. But late in the game, tie game against a playoff caliber team, man on third, less than 2 outs, you come up and you strike out. I mean, it's one of the things, and I'm not really blaming Acuna because I see this a lot in baseball, not just with the Braves. But it used to be an assumption, Mike, that if you had a guy at third, less than 2 outs, you were going to find a way to get the guy home about 80% of the time. It feels like it's a lot lower percentage right now, especially for our Braves. Yeah. Olson bails him out, thankfully, with the 3-run homer to kind of salvage the series. But these are the kind of things that when you get to the postseason, you've got to be able to do that because runs are at a premium in a postseason game. I think people forget how much different postseason baseball is. And the argument that I've been trying to make and on X and to my fellow Braves fans, and a large portion of our fan base agrees with me, by the way, but there are those outliers that say, oh, you're too critical and you're too negative. The Braves, ever since Schuerholz's era in the early 90s, when we turned this thing around and became one of the best franchises in baseball, have always built their teams to be very, very successful over 162 games. But that has not always translated to success in the postseason, solidified by the fact that out of 24 postseason appearances since then, we've only won 2 titles. So that's my concern. It's not that, we just did it, we got the leadoff man on the game currently, leadoff man, Ozzie singles, and then 3 straight outs. It's just we don't even get the guy over. We don't even get him close. It's just maddening. So that's my concern. I think the Braves are a very good baseball team. I put this on X yesterday. Multiple things can be true at one time, Mike. The Braves are a very good baseball team. The Braves are going to win the NL East. I firmly believe that no matter how good the Phillies start playing, the Braves won't collapse. They will win this division. However, if they don't play really well down the stretch, they're going to end up being the third division winner, which is basically just a wild card spot. Because now you got to play in that best of 3 series, right? So you got to tax your pitching rotation before going into the LDS. And I know the argument that some people will make. We've seen teams go to the wild card and advance to the World Series, and sometimes the Braves have had to bye twice, 22 and 23, and lost in the LDS. But it's still not ideal, especially with our pitching rotation, to have to use up 3 pitchers in a wild card series potentially, and then go play the Dodgers, the Brewers, or somebody like that, or the Cubs in a best of 5. And if they don't play well down the stretch, that's what they're going to end up doing. Plus, in the wild card round, they may have to face a team like the Diamondbacks or the Phillies, who've already proven they can beat us in the postseason twice. So that's my concern. It's not that they can't win the division. It's not that the Braves aren't a good baseball team. But we've seen a lot of Braves teams, Mike, over the last 30-plus years that are good baseball teams. But when it comes to October, man, they just come up short. And the weaknesses that glare out when we play good teams like the Diamondbacks, those are the things that are going to come up in the postseason. And I just don't think a team where Chris Sale is your only legitimate starter is going to win a championship. And that's my frustration. That's where I'm frustrated. And that's why I'm drinking bourbon.
Yeah, and was it 2022 that we won 104 games and lost to the Phillies in the first round?
Yeah.
We have great teams.
Good and did the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's frustrating. It really is. We make the playoffs. We're like, great, made the playoffs. We're in the dance. Okay. And then get our butts kicked in the first round.
Yeah.
Given it might not have been the actual first round, it might not have been the wild card, sure, but it's the first round we played in, and we get our butts kicked.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've heard this the same thing. Sometimes I'm like, well, maybe I would rather be in that wild card round, so that we don't stop playing and have that bye and have that leg over. But like you said, could be the Diamondbacks, who just took two out of 3 from us. Could be the Padres, who for some reason suck with everyone else, but always seem to beat us.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the Phillies, who, again, we already have our history with them. So what's no matter what, I feel like we're kind of screwed. I mean, I'm still going to root for them. I'm still going to pull for them as hard as I possibly can. And just like you, I hope they make the World Series. But it doesn't look good, even though, yes, we have a very good team, and we're more than likely going to win this division. The only way we could screw it up is if we have 7 games left against Philly. They'd have to sweep them for us to basically have a chance to blow this lead.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, depending on what we do between now and then, I mean, the Phillies, they kind of got on a run here lately, but they had gone through a period where if the Phillies hadn't kind of gone through that downtime, this would probably be a closer race right now. So, yeah, I still feel very confident the Braves will win the division, and they still have a great shot at getting that first. I mean, the Brewers, Dodgers, and Braves are all right there muddled together. The Brewers and Dodgers haven't exactly been separating themselves. They just seem to be a little more consistent when they do start winning. Like tonight, I mean, Perez, no offense, but he wets the bed in the first inning. I mean, 4 runs, it's 4-0 before the Braves even get started good. Now, I will say this, the Braves do appear to have worked the starting pitcher tonight a little bit. I think he's around 50 pitches after 2 innings. So maybe Atlanta can get into that Minnesota bullpen and do some damage late in this game and come back. But again, it's not about these individual regular season games. I'm not worried about it. Like tonight, maybe a loss. Okay, we lost. The Twins are in the playoff race. They're not terrible. They're much better than people thought they were going to be. It's about looking ahead to October. And I had somebody tell me the other day, or maybe yesterday, like, you can't look ahead to October. You're getting ahead of yourself. We got to win the division first. I don't play for the team, dude. I can look ahead to next year if I want to. Now, the team, the players need to focus every night. I'm sure they are. But I can look ahead whenever I want to. Like, because I've been here before. Me and you both are the same age. We've been through the same amount of seasons. We've seen the postseason failures and successes, more failures. And that's where my frustration lies. So when I point out these deficiencies, and look, people have been saying this, and I agree. We've talked about the starting pitching and the lack of moves that we made. And by the way, Tyler Mallay's been great. Like 2 starts, I think he's made 2 or 3. He's been great. Bryce Elder. I'm not mad at Bryce Elder. Like he came out and pitched a great game, apparently on a bum knee a little bit. He's been, he's had his moments where he wasn't very good, but for the most part, he's been really, really good this year. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about October baseball, when across the dugout from you, the other dugout, you've got Ohtani, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Skubal, and the list goes on and on. Or you got Misiorowski and you got Harrison. Like even Dustin May's pitching pretty well for the Brewers right now. The Cubs went out and got pitching help. The Phillies, whether they're playing great right now or not, if they get to the postseason with Wheeler and Sanchez and Luzardo, that's a tough team to knock out, right? That's what I'm talking about. If it's Chris Sanchez versus Tyler Mahle, guess who I think is going to win that game? Yep. No offense. I'm not saying it can't happen. I put this too. Like multiple things can be true. Certainly the Braves could go on a heater like they did kind of in 2021. And like we've seen other teams do, Texas in 2023, and just rip through the playoffs, hit the ball well, pitch well, and win a championship. I'm not saying that's not possible. But my frustration is, and I guess I'm just going to accept this as a Braves fan or just stop watching the Braves. Because our GM has told us what the philosophy is. Get to the postseason and let the chips fall where they may, which is basically saying get to the postseason and hope that you get lucky. And that's basically what he's saying. I believe you can take that approach, but you can also give your team the best possible chance in October, which is what the Dodgers do. They don't just they're not happy getting to the postseason. The Dodgers want to win championships. And the Braves, apparently, organizational philosophy is just get there, make sure fans show up during the regular season to buy the merch and buy the tickets and the concessions, and get to the playoffs so we're good enough for people to do that. But beyond that, winning a championship is not really that important. That's the message that I got when AA said
that. And I don't disagree. I don't at all. But I could also see it in him saying that and meaning something else too. He could be looking at it like, at this point, when we get to October, there's nothing else that I can do. The chips have to fall where they may, and the team has to take care of it from there. There's nothing else that by October, there's nothing else he can do. He can't sign anyone. He can't make any trades. So his job at that point is over. But I agree with you. It's not. It doesn't sound the best, especially when you say it right around the trade deadline. Not the best thing to say at that point in time. If he says it in late September, early October, I might take it as I've done what I can do. Let's see what happens. So I mean, I get both sides of it there.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and it's reasonable. And look, I will give AA credit when he deserves it. I'm not just anti-AA. I made a post about I think the move to let Freddie walk, however you believe that worked out, whether it was mostly Freddie's fault or mostly his fault, and then signing or trading for Matt Olson. Look, Matt Olson, where would the Braves be right now without Matt Olson? When we talk about MVP, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. We'll get back to the postseason discussion. But, I get that Ohtani's a unicorn. But if you take Ohtani off of that Dodgers team right now, they're still probably a first-place team. They're still probably one of the 4 or 5 teams you would pick to win the World Series. If you take Matt Olson off the Braves right now, Mike, I'm not even sure they're a playoff team.
I agree with you.
And by the way, we won't get into it because we're a Braves-centered podcast, but you can make that same argument for PCA in Chicago. I think both Olson and PCA should be considered, if you really want to go with the definition of most valuable player. Yeah. I think both of those guys should probably be ahead of Ohtani simply because, and I know people are going to say, well, you're putting Ohtani at an unfair advantage because he plays on a great team. Well, yeah. Yeah, he plays on a great team with great players, and he's not as important to that team as Matt Olson and PCA are to their teams. But Matt Olson, man, when he hit that home run yesterday, I just looked at my wife. We were watching it, and I said, you know, where would they be without this guy? Like he just consistently makes that kind of play when it's needed, and he's punished kind of for being a first baseman, by the way, because if you look at PCA versus Olson, like WAR, PCA is higher because he plays a more premium defensive position. Yeah. But other than stolen bases, the hitting numbers are pretty even. They're close. I just think Maddie's a steadying force on this team. So all credit to Alex Anthopoulos for that move. All credit to Anthopoulos for what he did at the deadline in 2021. All credit to Alex Anthopoulos for Chris Sale. Brilliant. Iglesias, Suarez, all great moves. And every GM is going to have great moves and not so great moves. Because I can also point to Ha-Seong Kim, $20 million completely down the drain. Jurickson Profar, money down the drain. That, by the way, we still haven't used this season. Still, we just pocketed that $17 million. And I don't know if this is Anthopoulos or Walt Weiss. The continued use of Jim Jarvis at shortstop. I like Jim Jarvis. He's a great story. He was a great story. But right now, his hitting is on par or less than Nick Allen. Okay. You got to put Dubon in there at shortstop most every day, right? And you got to rotate Lane Thomas and Yaz lefty, righty, in left field. Why do we even get Lane Thomas if we're not going to do that? I don't really understand it. So there are a lot of things you can point to and say, great job, Alex Anthopoulos. There are a lot of things you can point to and think, what were we thinking? But the bottom line is, for the last 2 off seasons and trade deadlines, everybody, including Anthopoulos, in his own words, has said the Braves need starting pitching. And here we are going into a postseason with most likely Chris Sale and some version of Tyler Mahle, Martin Perez, and Bryce Elder. And again, if you look at if you look at the numbers, like Martin Perez and Grant Holmes and Bryce Elder have done a really good job. I want people to understand, I'm not coming down on those guys. They've done a really good job. Now, Grant Holmes wet the bed in his last start, but before that, he was lights out. The start before that, I think he went 6 or 7, and he was just like unhittable. The problem is, Mike, when you get to October and you're facing the best teams with their best pitchers, Grant Holmes and Bryce Elder and Martin Perez are not going to get it done most of the time. And then you got to rely on your offense. And that's the other big concern. When people talk about the starting pitching, lately, this offense is concerning. It's been pretty average since that hot start. And people are saying, well, if we just walk more, if we just stop swinging at bad pitches. But that's who these guys are. They're not going to suddenly change who they are. This is how they were brought up in the system. This is who they are. Austin Riley's not going to stop swinging at that pitch 2 feet off the plate outside. Michael Harris and Ozzie are not going to stop swinging at that pitch that bounces 3 feet in front of the plate. It's who they are. You're not going to change it the last 2 months of the 2026 season and into the postseason. So my concern right now, honestly, more than the pitching, is can we hit in the postseason? Because that's really what cost us in 22 and 23 was the hitting kind of just went away in the postseason. So I just went on a long rant there, but your thoughts on the offense lately, Mike?
No, yeah, like you said, where would we be without Matt Olson? Like that home run against, the 3-run homer to put it up against Arizona. Everyone's made a big deal about the face that he made, and it did look like a face of complete disgust. Like, why would you throw a pitch there? I'm going to crush it.
I love that, by the way.
And it was like, why would you throw that? It was a great look, and he has said that hey,
he does look disgusted. He's like, I can't believe he threw that pitch, right? Yeah, and that was a 3-0 pitch. He had the green light, by the way, and sometimes I'm like, why are you swinging 3-0? But that pitch was right down Broadway, and the pitcher knew it too, because it's great when you see the pitcher it doesn't even look back. Yeah, he's just like, that's gone.
Yeah,
you know, yeah.
Yeah, you know when they don't look back or their head just goes down, like, oh, I just hung that fucker, like it's gone.
And just the sound off the bat, you're like, oh yeah, that's. So
but other than Matt, we would be totally host at this point because everyone will have a good game every once in a while, but it doesn't seem like no one's stringing together, no one's getting like I don't even need a hit streak. On base streak, just a
Yeah.
little bit of that we can trust that you're going to get on base for a few games in a row at least. No, it's just everyone's riding on Matty's coattails and hoping he takes us out of this.
Yeah. Just have a quality at bat with men in scoring position. Like
Yeah.
so many times we've got a guy in scoring position and the at bats are just awful. We swinging at pitches a foot off the plate. We're getting behind 0-2 before we even step in the box. Like there was a great example, and I pointed this out on X too. Like either yesterday's game or Saturday's game, which Saturday was a disaster, just of epic proportions. Where the bottom of the order, which this has happened a lot this season. I think Dominic Smith had a single, and then Austin Riley, who's supposed to be one of the big dogs, strikes out. Then Jarvis singles. So you got first and second. Then Baldwin does come through, one of the big. He gets a single and scores a run. And then you have Acuna and Olsen back to back, and they both strike out with men on the base. And so you got production out of your role players, your bottom of the order, Jarvis and Smith. Baldwin did come through with a single. But then your two guys who, and again, Olsen, I kind of let off the hook here because he's done enough to overcome this. But the point is, the guys that are paid to drive in runs strike out with guys on ducks on the pond, and the ducks that were on the pond are the guys that are making league minimum or whatever, right?
Exactly.
You get to the postseason, you've got to have those guys come through, and I'm very frustrated with Riley has been better, no question, since the All-Star break. If you look at his overall numbers, but he's still striking out a ton. He still hasn't been great with runners in scoring position. And him and Acuna both are missing middle, low 90s fastball that they used to crush. And that's concerning because that's a bat speed issue. And you're like, have these guys just kind of lost their bat speed? I mean, I know Ronnie had a big double yesterday, I guess it was, but, then he comes up with a runner scoring position and strikes out. So I'm not asking these guys to be perfect. You see the writing on the wall because we've seen this story before. And so I'm not celebrating being in first place. I'm not celebrating winning the division because we've done that. We've done that, Mike. We've done that. So
old news.
I pointed this out on Clearing the Bases the other night. The Braves out there at Truist in right field have those two poles, and they're full of blue flags. Those are division titles. We're full of them. We got plenty of division titles. In the 100-plus year history of the Braves organization, there are 4 red flags up there, 2 in Atlanta. They've been in Atlanta since '66, 2 World Series flags, and the 1990s Braves teams had some of the most generational talent you'll ever see on a baseball field with Maddox, Glavine Smoltz, Chipper, Fred McGriff, Andrew Jones. I just named 6 Hall of Famers that were consistently in Braves teams, and they got one pennant out of it, one title out of it. One title. And so that's my fear about this group. Matt Olson, going back to Matt, if anybody deserves to have a shot at a ring based on how he's carried the team, it's Matt Olson. Yeah. And if anybody should be pissed off at Alex Anthopoulos and the way that the trade deadline was handled, to me it's Matt Olson because he's having to stand out there at first base and watch these pitchers come out. And, again, sometimes Perez is great. Sometimes Elder is great. Sometimes Holmes is great. And then sometimes they wet the bed like Perez has tonight. I understand, too, by the way, that Anthopoulos did try to get DeGrom and he did try to get Skubal, or at least made offers, and then DeGrom with the whole trade clause, no trade clause thing. But you got to have a plan C. You got to have a plan D. You got to have a plan E. What if those fall through? Now you have put Chris Sale out there on an island for the postseason. I hope Tyler Mahle continues to pitch the way he's pitching. I hope he gets to the postseason, and I hope all these guys prove me and so many other Braves fans who are upset. Hope they prove us wrong. I've told you before, and I've said it on here. I will get on this podcast and I will admit to being the most wrong person in the world while wearing my World Series champion hat and shirt. Okay, because I want the Braves to succeed. This is not about me not wanting them to succeed. This is about me as a 49-year-old guy who's watched the Braves for 40-plus, the majority of those 49 years. And only twice has the season ended the way we really want it to end. That's what I'm not even asking for 5 World Series titles, Mike, but it feels like we should have more than the Marlins.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, is that unreasonable? That's my question. Am I being unreasonable?
It's not. It's not unreasonable. We should – I mean, We won in 95. Great. We should have won in 96.
Absolutely.
We should know. I fully admit we should not have won in 99. We were lucky to make the World Series that
Yankees were a
year.
juggernaut.
Yeah, probably should have went in 98 and possibly given them a fight in 98. Probably should have won one of the first two, 91 and 92. And probably should have went to a World Series after 1999 with either 01 or 02 or 03. We still had really good freaking teams then.
2000 and 2004 were two really good Braves teams that didn't even get to the 2014 didn't even get to the league championship series. And people forget, I pointed this out to somebody the other night during one of these back and forths. We went basically 20 years without winning a playoff series. As good as this franchise has been, me and you talked about this either off air or on last week's episode. We beat the Diamondbacks in 2000, or we lost to the Diamondbacks in 2001 in the league championship series. And then the next postseason series that the Atlanta Braves won was the 2020 first round COVID tournament with the Reds.
Yep.
In a 3-game series. That's basically 20 years, 19 years. That should have been unacceptable. So that's why when we have this window, when you have Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies and Matt Olson and Austin Riley and now Drake Baldwin, who we never expected actually to be what he is, and Michael Harris and Chris Sale, you've got to take advantage of that. Like Sale's probably got one more year, maybe. If he stays healthy, I think Sale's got one more year in him. He's what? He's pushing 40 if he's not already. Right there.
He's 38.
Yeah. So, I mean, best case, you get 2 more good seasons out of Sale if he stays healthy. That now is the time. Now is the time. And I wasn't asking Anthopoulos to go out and trade all of our best prospects. Just go get us somebody. Reed Detmers, Nathan Eovaldi, somebody. It didn't have to be Skubal. Didn't have to be DeGrom. I'm not even sure those would have been great moves, to be honest with you. Like DeGrom is already hurt, by the way. So not even sure what his status is the rest of the season. So, look, I've had this discussion with so many Braves fans on X. A lot of them agree with us or agree with me. I won't speak for you. A lot of them are mad at me. I love the Atlanta Braves. I love this franchise, and that's why I want to see them succeed more because we are, whether you like it or not, we are known as the team that gets to the postseason and usually chokes. That's what we're known as. We're not the Buffalo Bills because we actually have won 2 titles.
Correct.
But we're very similar in that we are known for getting to the postseason and not getting further than that. Go Magic, our best buddy here. He says, what's really scary is we have to put the weight of the world on Sale's shoulders in the playoffs. If we lose game 1, yeah, that's a great point. He's not wrong. If we lose game 1 with Sale on the mound, most of the fan base is going to hang up their jersey till next year and then, of course, maybe 2028 given the labor problems. But he makes a great point there for sure.
Yeah, because we'll use the Brewers just as an example. So you got Miz versus Sale, and the Brewers win game 1. So Harrison against who?
At this point, I say, Mahle maybe or Perez, yeah.
Like, I don't give us a shot in that game. And if we somehow win that one, okay, great. But so Sale may come back for game 4.
Yeah.
So now he's burnt for the beginning of the DS if we even make it to that. So and that's if we're lucky and possibly pull off wins with Bryce Elder or Martin Perez or Mahle pitching.
Yeah.
We're praying at that point. If we lose game 1, we're basically done.
Yeah. So here's my, and I'm not trying to be funny. Here's my conundrum. As a Braves fan, knowing that this is the reality and that as long as the front office prioritizes, the almighty dollar over winning, which is not unusual for pro sports, by the way. I'm not saying the Braves are alone in that endeavor. Do you just go through the season just happy to be there? Like, all right, I'm happy we won the division. I'm happy I get to watch a pretty good baseball team play. And, I kind of, you mentioned the Brewers. I think the Brewers are a great example of that. Now this year, I think the Brewers may have a real shot, although there's still that part of me that thinks and somebody pointed this out to me, like, yeah, every year we say this about the Brewers, and then we get to the postseason and they, they get beat. If you're a Brewers fan, Mike, are you happy? Like, I see a lot of Brewers fans who are super happy. Like, we are a consistent fan. I saw somebody say they are I forgot what they put. Like, they are one of the best franchises or something. Like, you got to win a championship, don't you, to be calling yourself that?
Yeah.
Like, they've gotten to the league championship once, during this stretch. Yeah, they're a good baseball team. And if I'm a Brewers fan, I enjoy going to the ballpark, watching the team play during the regular season. They're entertaining. But then if they get to the postseason and you don't reach the ultimate goal, I hate to break this to people, but the point of a playoff in any pro sport is to, and I know this is breaking news, Mike, determine the champion of that sport.
Yeah.
This is not bowl games from the 1980s and 90s in college football where a bowl game was like a reward for a pretty good season, right? Like, okay, we made a bowl game. That's not what postseason is about in professional sports. Postseason is about winning a championship. And we know what it feels like because we just did it 5 years ago. It was great. It was wonderful. And again, I understand you're not going to do that every year. I understand you're probably not going to do that 2, 3, 4 times over a 6, 7, 8 year period unless you're, the dynasty type teams, which is rare. The Dodgers were the first National League team to repeat as world champion since the 70s. I get it. I'm not asking for that. I'm simply asking for the front office to do the best they can to put the team in the best position to win a championship in October. And we did not do that this year. I don't care what the excuse is. I don't care what they say. Lane Thomas and Tyler Mahle, and I don't remember his first name, Sutter, that is not putting your team in the best position to win a championship. No offense to those guys. Malle's been really good. Thomas has been okay. Sutter's been pretty good. They're not going to win you a championship in October.
I want to call him Bruce, but I know that's wrong.
I know, I do too. I can't remember his name. I'm terrible.
That's just our oldness coming back to Bruce Sutter. No, wrong person.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. Tyler? I could be wrong. No, that's Mahle.
I'm trying to find it now.
I know. I can't think of it either. That's fine. We're worried about the name on the back of the jersey, not his first name, so it's fine.
Brent Sutter.
Brent.
Sutter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
I mean, look, I know I sound super negative. I get that. I do. And it's hard to do a podcast with a team that's in first place, 7.5 games up on their rivals. I get it. I'm not unhappy with where we're at. I'm unhappy because I kind of know where we're headed. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And I'm still excited. Like, when we get to October, I'm still going to be excited. And I will do. You remember the old Peanuts cartoon where, Charlie Brown's going to kick the football and Lucy always pulls it out from under the last second. She always promises she's not going to do it. And the last second she pulls the football. That's me and the Braves. Okay. The Braves are Lucy and I'm trying to kick the football and the Braves always pull it out from under me at the last second. So, but I always go kick the football. I always believe, and I will this year as well. But I don't think there's anything wrong with a fan, expressing their opinion and their frustration about what we didn't do. Now, I know it's over with. It's been a month. It's over with. It's done. We got to go. We're going to war with what we got.
Yeah.
But when people throw the standings at me and they're like, well, we're in first place. Well, we've been in first place too. The last 40 years, the Braves probably have spent more time in first place than any other team in baseball. Maybe the Yankees are right there with us. I don't know. I'd have to pull that. But we're at least second, most probably days or weeks in first place in our division during that period. And it's yielded 2 championships, the same amount of championships that the Miami Marlins have, by the way. And I'll stop now.
There was one thing I did want to bring up, and because I was listening to Locked On, and he made a comment about this. I'm like, that's a good discussion point. We could sit there and talk about
it.
Yeah. We think about the 2021 bullpen being completely shut down with Matzik and Luke Jackson and AJ and Will Smith.
Yeah.
So compare that to, given I'm hoping he's there, Robert Suarez, Dylan Lee, Didier Fuentes, and Iggy. which two sets would you, which one of the two would you rather have right now? If given, let's say 21, if they were at the same time part of the
Right,
their
without
career,
knowing what happened in 2021. I mean, I would take what we have now. If Suarez is back and healthy, I would take now. Although, in fairness, Iggy has been pretty shaky for about 2 months now. I said this. I think I said this to you a couple episodes ago. I put it on X. Like if you give me a situation in October where, Sale, Mallet, and then some combination of Martin Perez, or if AJ Smith-Shawver comes back and is solid, those are your starters, because you really only need 3, maybe 4 in the postseason. All right. And then you have a bullpen that includes Grant Holmes, Lopez, Didier Fuentes, Dylan Lee, Robert Suarez, Iglesias. That's solid. Like, assuming Iglesias is pitching the way we know he's capable of, and Suarez comes back healthy, I'm not saying you don't have a shot with that staff. Now, that doesn't address the offensive concerns we talked about earlier, but from a pitching standpoint, that's not terrible. Like I could conceive of a situation where that's good enough. Then it would largely depend on, can we hit the baseball the way we're capable of hitting it for 3 weeks, in October. So again, I'm not completely denying the fact the Braves have a shot. I just don't think they put themselves in the best position.
No, we didn't.
They could be in better shape. But yeah, if you give me that bullpen, because look, even when Grant Holmes wets the bed as a starter, if you give me Grant Holmes for 2 innings, he'll probably give you 2 really good innings, right? Same thing with Lopez. Didier Fuentes, he gave up a home run the other day, but I mean, mostly he's just been amazing. We've talked about him. So yeah, I would take that group over the night shift, as they called themselves back then, in 2021, without knowing what they accomplished, in the postseason, because they weren't that good that year leading up to that. They were okay. Will Smith was an adventure every time he went out there to close until the postseason, and he was just locked down in the postseason. So, yeah, I would take this year's group for sure.
Yeah, Will Smith was an adventure. Luke Jackson was an adventure.
Luke, yeah.
And
yeah.
Matzek kind of was until that one game against the Dodgers where he just blew everyone about, and that was incredible. But like, he wasn't locked down by any means either. And AJ was great, but he wasn't outstanding either. That's the thing. Like, he game 1 of the World Series, he was who came in when Morton went out with the broken ankle or leg, and he kept us alive, and that was great. But
yeah,
I wouldn't have, at the beginning of that, I was like, oh no, like, we're gonna blow this completely. So I had no trust in any of them, even like maybe Matzek once we get to the World Series, I think I had some trust in Matzek. I didn't have any trust in Will Smith. I had zero trust in Luke Jackson. Zero.
Yeah, Luke was always an adventure.
Negative. Yeah. If it could have been negative, I would have been negative trust in Luke Jackson.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And that could happen. I'm not saying that's not possible. That could happen. Everything, just like to AA's point, all the chips fall where you want them to, and everything locks into place. But instead of having to rely on that solely, you could have done things, I think, that would have increased the chances of that happening, right? And people that want to keep pointing at 2021, that feels like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of deal. Plus, not taking anything away from that team. The Brewers were good that year, but they weren't as good as they are now.
Correct.
And the Dodgers were very good, but they weren't as good as they are now. I mean, they didn't have Ohtani, they didn't have Freddie, they didn't have Glasnow, they didn't have Skubal, they didn't have Yamamoto. So they were a very good team, but they weren't this good. So to compare anything to 2021, I feel like it's kind of a disingenuous thing, because that was just such a moment in time. Everything clicked into place. There was just this kind of magic to that team, and maybe this team will find that. Maybe they will, because I do think this team really enjoys playing with each other. I think it's a good clubhouse.
Yeah.
And that was a key to that team. I think they've got good leadership there, even if it's quiet leadership, like from Matt Olson. I like Walt Weiss's leadership, even if I've started to question some of his decisions with the lineup and things like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. It's definitely possible. I do wonder, Mike, is there a disconnect? And this is just speculation for us. I know you don't have the answer, but is there some kind of disconnect between Walt and Anthopoulos? Like Walt continuing to play Jarvis every day, not putting Lane Thomas in the lineup maybe as often. One thing that really stood out to me yesterday, I think it was Mark Bowman reported that Weiss said that if AJ Smith-Shawver is brought up, they may put him in the bullpen and continue to have Walt start. That one caught me off guard a little bit. That one shocked me.
And I would much rather have AJ in the starting lineup, in the starting rotation.
For sure.
Yeah, and I want to say I heard AA in one of his interviews saying that like I just give him the pieces and Walt makes a decision on who plays. I don't make that decision.
Right.
And that's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
Like I hope there's not a disconnect because I mean he's basically saying there shouldn't be one because I just give him who we got and you go from there. But like we said before, with the lineup, it should be Doobie at short, and it should be Lane Thomas and Yaz platooning in left, because it's frustrating seeing Jim Jarvis still out there. Like he had a little bit of a streak, and he was good during it. But I want to say before the hit, was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago. He'd been in a one for 24 slump, which was you can't have him still out there at that point. If he was a tested major leaguer, okay. He's not a tested major leaguer. As much as I don't like Kim, maybe put Kim out there or do it like just for a game. I'm not saying for the rest of the season. Doobie gets short for the most part. But yeah, I mean, sometimes someone's got to, they got to have a day off or whatever. So yeah, maybe Kim out there for a game or two, but it is kind of frustrating seeing the same team run out there constantly.
Yeah, I do wonder at what point, by the way, does the Ha-Seong Kim thing come to a head? I mean, obviously we're past the trade deadline, but the guy's just sitting there on the bench. I mean, they're not even giving him very many at bats. I think he's had maybe 5 at bats in the last, 2 weeks or so. Like it's like a sunk cost over there. Like at some point you've got to either go ahead and cut bait and put somebody over there that can actually contribute, or I don't really know. I really don't know how to handle that situation. To me, lineup wise, you've got to put Jarvis either on the bench or put him in AAA. Doobie plays shortstop every day. And then you just do the platoon thing with Lane Thomas and Yastrzemski lefty righty. And, either Kim, if you keep him as your backup and your utility guy, or you cut Kim loose, go ahead and eat that salary the rest of the year and make Jarvis your utility guy. Other than that, I'm just kind of confused at what they continue to do with Ha-Seong Kim. I'm not sure what the plan is there.
I've got to assume that he's got to be the backup, and I'm not saying he deserves it. I'm saying it's the money thing. He's at $20 million. I feel like they can't cut bait. He should be the backup at least at this point. And yeah, Jarvis should unfortunately be back in AAA. Like I don't think there's a solution in AAA to pull up instead of Jim Jarvis, especially for short. So put him back down there, have Kim as the backup, and have Doobie play short. Starting the starting gig.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, there's not really a lot of options there. Cut Mateo loose. I think he's already been picked up by somebody else. So the Rays, I think, picked up Mateo. So you're basically down to Jarvis and Ha-Seong Kim as far as your kind of utility guys over there. But again, and Dubon hasn't been great, by the way. Like Dubon's highlights are great because he's hit really well with runners in scoring position. But if you look at his WRC plus since the beginning of the season, he's below average, below league average. So a lot of potential pitfalls for the postseason, but I want to end on a positive note. The Atlanta Braves are in first place, 7.5 games ahead of the dreaded Phillies. Could be 6.5 by the end of the night. Phillies are winning currently. Braves are down 4-0. Hopefully they rally. They do have a little rally going here in the fifth inning, it looks like. But 6.5 games with basically 5 weeks left in the season. You like your odds. You did bring up a great point that I hadn't really thought about too deeply. That we still have 7 games left against those Phillies next month, so head-to-head could come into play. But I just feel like if the Braves just do enough, those games won't be as people always look ahead to those type of series, and then 7 times out of 10 they turn out to not be as important as people think because what happens in between and after those series. Kind of reduces the importance. But we'll see. I'd rather be in the position we're in. I do think it's very vital the Braves get one of those top 2 spots as a division winner and not have to play that wild card series because of the pitching issue. If the pitching issue was better, then I think maybe they'd benefit from playing those two games or 3 extra games. But with the pitching situation, I think you got to try your best to get one of those 2 slots. It's not going to be easy. Brewers and Dodgers are very good baseball teams. It's also unfortunate that in a season where the Braves are good, the National League is just really stacked. I mean, there's just a lot of – if the Braves run the American League, you'd almost think this team could kind of cakewalk to the World Series. I mean, who's going to win the American League? The Rays look like the best team, but I just don't trust them. They're another team I don't super trust in the postseason, kind of like the Braves and the Brewers. So it's going to be interesting, but I'll end it on a positive note. Braves are in first. Solid lead in the division. I do firmly believe they are going to win the division. I just hope they get one of the first 2 spots.
No, I agree. And same thing. I don't trust the Rays. I don't trust really anyone in the AL. I feel like it's whoever wins the National League should win. I'm not guaranteeing that whoever wins the NL wins the World Series, but if they should win because of how bad the AL right now. I want to say the last place. The last wild card is either at 500 or below 500. It's so sad.
I hope it's below. It's pretty sad. And you got a lot of teams. I know the Tigers are below, and they're like a game out. So, we'll see. You got trivia for us this week? You got last week's answer? And
I do. So the question was which Braves Hall of Fame pitcher threw the first no-hitter in the Atlanta era, and it was during the month of August. You did guess. Actually, I guess technically it was on during the stream at the absolute tail end. If someone guessed,
you were watching at the right time, and you saw my guess or heard my guess. Yes.
Sure. Your guess was correct. It was Knucksy, Phil Niekro. He no-hit the Padres 9-0 on August 5th, 1973.
Nice. So what about this week, Mike? What you got?
All right. So this week I was thinking about the 95 team and a name came up and I was like, how can I word this, get this person in here? So Mark Wohlers was the primary closer for the 95 World Champion Braves. He led the team with 29 saves. Who finished second in saves on that team?
That's another good one. I got no clue. I'd have to dig into my memory banks. That's another good one. Because Wohlers is, the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, especially since he closed out game 6.
Yes, forever known for that, and then also giving up the home run to Jim Leyritz. But that's a good one. By the way, Acuna did just come up with a clutch 1 out, 2-run single, so it's now 4-2 Twins. And we still have a man. Acuna's still on. Olson's up to bat with 1 out. The Twins are changing pitchers, so hopefully the Braves can continue to rally. Great trivia question. I have no idea. I'll have to think about that one. I know before Wohlers, our closer, was kind of a committee. It seems like a lot, but Alejandro Pena was a big part of the 91, 92 teams, I think. I know 91. He was part of that no-hitter, that combined no-hitter. The Braves. But, I'll have to think about that one, man. That's a good one, as usual. Good stuff. All right, we're going to call it a night. You got anything else before I shut it down and start the bumper music?
No, I got nothing. I got nothing else as of right now.
All right. We're going to sign off. Thanks to all the people who watched us on X tonight. Check out the recording on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube tomorrow. And, hang in there. Hopefully the Braves rally tonight. Tough week ahead, by the way. We didn't really talk about it, but tough week. 3 cities, I think, in like 7 days. They got to make that makeup game with the White Sox on Thursday between the Twins, who are fighting for a postseason spot, and then the Brewers, if I'm not mistaken, on the road. So kind of a tough week. And then the Dodgers coming up again not too long from now, I believe. So tough stretch for the Braves. If they can survive this stretch, I feel very good about winning the division. So in the meantime, we'll see you guys at the ballpark, and go Braves.